Jason Ray, Last Word on College Football. Please check out his work right there. Our friends on Last Word. So this week we've had Jason on, Kevin McGuffey, Tony Siracusa. We pretty much just run them through here on pretty much a weekly basis. Good stuff. So check them out on Last Word on College Football. We have run down the offense and the defense for the Sooners as they prepare for spring practice. So check out those videos. Jason has lined us up all through the offense and through most of the defense. And we're looking at the secondary today, Jason, with a couple trays gone, Brown and Norwood.
Yeah, kind of similar to what we talked on the offensive side of the ball, where the offensive line may be the key to catalyst to see exactly how good of a season Oklahoma is going to be able to have. Similarly, on the defensive side of the ball, the secondary, particularly the cornerbacks and the depth, is really kind of an area of, I wouldn't necessarily say concern, but an area of kind of worry from a Oklahoma fan's perspective, just to see exactly how good they could be. To your point, cornerback Trey Brown is no longer with the team, certainly going to the NFL. Trey Norwood, who ended up being really a pivotal part of the back end of the defense for Oklahoma towards the end of the year, starting nickelback the last few games of the year. He elected to skip his senior year to go pro. And then Brendan Radley-Hiles, who has entered his name into the portal. There were some discussions. Maybe Riley and the team were trying to get him to come back. Looks like that he may be landing in a Pac-12 school. Not necessarily anything for certain yet, but you still have three guys there that are part of the Oklahoma secondary that will no longer be there in this upcoming year. And really probably Trey Brown is the biggest impact. You would say, single-handedly Trey Brown was very pivotal in Oklahoma winning all three the last three conference championships. He's had game-winning plays in all three of those years in the Big 12 championship game. So really being able to replace him will be interesting. So when you look at the cornerback position, just to kind of start it off, Woody Washington was a starting cornerback opposite Trey Brown this past year. No reason to believe that he won't retain that role as a starting cornerback. And there's a couple of other guys. DJ Graham, who ended up playing a lot, really kind of a converted wide receiver, played a little bit of both out of high school, really is a dynamic athlete. He played a little bit more and more of a backup role towards the end of the year. He started for Trey Brown when he opted out of the Cotton Bowl, played well in that game. From an athletic perspective, has all the tools to be able to be a really good cornerback. It'll be interesting to see as he gets a full year from a spring ball perspective to see how he reacts and how he plays. You probably look at him as probably the starter. Jaden Davis is another guy who has played quite a bit for Oklahoma over the last couple of years. He'll be in the mix. Certainly he'll be in the mix just in terms of being able to play, consistently for Oklahoma. I'm not sure he'll battle probably with DJ Graham for that other cornerback spot. Certainly maybe battle for Woody Washington to see. But those are you're probably going to be your top three cornerbacks going into the year. Joshua Eaton is another guy who's an interesting story. He was very highly recruited, 4-star guy. He'll be in the mix as well next year for your really kind of your top four. And then when you look at the safety position, they've got two starters coming back. Pat Fields and De'Laren Turner-Yell are your two returning starters from a safety perspective. Conventional wisdom tells you De'Laren Turner-Yell probably will retain that spot going into the spring, certainly into the fall. He's played really well. It was very evident how good of a player he was just a couple of years ago when he was out against LSU in the semifinal game. The secondary played very bad in that game. Certainly, Joe Burrow had something to do with that, but not having De'Laren Turner-Yell as the catalyst in there and the back end was evident. It was certainly evident in that game. You could tell that. So there's a couple of guys, you can consider new guys from a transfer perspective. Key Lawrence, safety from Nashville, Tennessee, who played 1 year at Tennessee, was a number 8 overall safety in the 2020 recruiting class. Played sparingly at the safety position for Tennessee last year. He's a transfer. He's in here in the spring. Has got a lot of size at 6'2". He's been kind of vocal on the social media side. Oklahoma has really been kind of pumping him up, just kind of talking about how well he's done. already from a spring perspective. Another guy to kind of look at is Justin Harrington. Was the #1 rated JUCO in the 2020 class. Had an ACL injury early on in summer, fall camp for Oklahoma. Didn't get to play at all last year. He's 6'3". He has got the size that really Alex Grinch is looking for at that position. So those two guys will be interesting to see. Most people think that Justin Harrington probably has the edge from a nickelback perspective, but who knows to see how Grinch will kind of move those guys around a little bit in the back end. Jeremiah Cradell is another guy that was very, very highly recruited, has played sparingly, hasn't really got an opportunity. Will he be able to make a move here in the spring as well? And then maybe a wild card as a true freshman coming in from Choctaw, Oklahoma, Jordan Mukes. He's got the height that Oklahoma's looking for, 6'4" in the secondary. Coming in the spring, it'll be interesting to see how he's able to, kind of get in the fold. Does he have the ability to play early on? But I think the one thing, Mark, that's really evident kind of looking at the secondary is the size. There's another true freshman, Latrell McCutcheon, who's come in from Austin, Texas, one of the top, 15, 20 cornerbacks in the country. He's 6'1". Key Lawrence is 6'2", Justin Harrington 6'3". So Oklahoma's getting a little bit more height in the back end of the secondary, which is something that Alex Grinch has preached, and one thing that he's looked for when bringing kids in, as he started at the beginning of a few years ago, wanted to get more height than the secondary. So that will be an area of opportunity for Oklahoma, and it'll be really, there's a couple of position battles specifically at the nickelback and the safety position to see where some of those kids fall in line.
Yeah, Trey's Brown and Norwood picked off 5 and 3 passes, 8 total passes last year in a short season. So they only played 11 games. They would have played 14 with a conference championship game and a postseason game after that typically. So that's a lot of picks between two guys. But Oklahoma looks to be pretty well fortified in the secondary for 2021. Jason Ray, last word on college football. Join him and the rest of the crew over there. Of course, lock it in here. Best discussion, debate, and analysis. That's our aim, goal, and mission. So please subscribe right here at the Voice of College Football. Jason, we always appreciate you stopping by. We'll see you next Friday.
All right. Thanks, Mark.